Good evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. Nirav Modi, the diamond businessman from Gujarat who fled India after allegedly cheating a government bank, the Punjab National Bank, of over 11,000 crores in India's biggest ever bank scam, has been cleared for extradition to India. The judges didn't accept the argument that he was a suicide risk and that extradition was oppressive. Will there finally be justice in a case where money just evaporated from a public sector bank? And after Nirav Modi, what about the other high-profile offenders who fled India? That's our first debate. Next on the show, after Twitter, mass layoffs are announced at Facebook. 11,000 people will be losing their jobs. That's a whopping 13% of Meta's team. Mark Zuckerberg writes to his employees and says sorry. But let's start our first debate this evening. Nirav Modi will be likely back in India soon. Joining us to debate this, Professor Yukteswar Kumar, the first Asian Deputy Mayor of Bath in the United Kingdom. Also joining us, Aryaman Sundaram, Senior Lawyer of the Supreme Court, Adil Singh Boparai of the Congress Party, Ranbir Singh Pathania of the BJP. Thanks very much for being with us. Let me just go across to Mr. Sundaram first. Do you believe that this is, an example of do you believe that this is actually the process of law finally reaching a conclusion, that India has pursued this case relentlessly and this is something inevitable which has now taken place?
Certainly, yes, because let's first understand what extradition is all about. Extradition is more a political issue than really a legal issue. And I'll tell you why. Because extradition arises when two countries enter into an extradition treaty by which they agree that although crimes have not been committed on their own soil, and usually criminal law jurisdiction is about crimes committed in your own soil, they come to an agreement that, look, if you, as an extradition treaty partner, there's a crime committed on your soil which comes within certain categories, not just any small white-collar crime or small crimes, but major crimes which will be defined in the treaty. Then, although the person is not within your jurisdiction and although the crime is not within our country, because of our treaty, we will send him back to your country. And therefore, it is a political issue. It's a question of political will. And that political will has now come out because in the last about 8-10 years, earlier, numerous requests for extradition were made by India and never really met with any success. It's only in the last 10 years with the present government, which has really made an effort to get people back, that the English authorities are honoring these extradition treaties to the full. Now, where the courts come in extradition, like I said, it's political.
Right.
So really, it is the Home Office of the country concerned, which then says, yes, we are willing to extradite this person. Where the courts come in is to see that while extraditing, the person's human rights, there's natural justice, that there's a genuine case, and it's not just a cooked-up issue, it is not a political vendetta. The courts come there to protect the person who, if he decides to go to court,
that's where, Mr. Sundaram,
that's where the courts come in,
sure, but
not as a decision to extradite.
Yeah,
decision is taken by the government. The courts see whether the decision is justified or not justified in a very, very loose framework.
Sure.
They don't really go into the...
But sir, let me just jump in, because, the point that you're talking about, I wanted to take it across to Professor Yukteswar Kumar. Professor Kumar, in as much as, India has obviously been involved to try and push through an extradition proceeding, the judges in the United Kingdom and the defense lawyers for Nirav Modi were very clear that the conditions in India, in the prison where he must be kept, or he will be kept, Barrack 12 at Arthur Road in Mumbai, had to meet a certain condition. Now, this is somewhat problematic because A, you've got an external country judging the quality of our jails, and B, it appears that India has relented somewhat because the room is airy, it's meant for VVIPs, there's plenty of sunlight, and there is an ensuite bathroom as well. Why should Nirav Modi not be treated as a petty criminal?
Of course, as in Hindi, there is a saying, or Urdu, that bakre ki amma kab tak khair manayengi. Now, the point is that one day, all these numerous embezzlers of India, including Nirav Modi or Vijay Mallya, Lalit Modi, Sanjay Bhandari, just to name a few, they're camping basically in London, and the judges of High Court or Supreme Court, obviously earlier it was House of Lords who used to make the final decision before 2007, and they understand this, and they have to understand that India is no longer a country which they or British used to
but
rule.
you aren't answering my question, sir. My question is that he'll be treated, he'll be given special standards over here. That's part of the order.
Well, because obviously there is an issue of human right, and British rule or British legal system tells that everybody should be treated with dignity. Now, because
there is an assumption that our courts don't treat people with dignity. Arima Sundaram, is that a fair argument to actually raise, sir?
In India it is not.
Sure, one second. Why should Nirav Modi be given an ensuite bathroom? I mean, I understand the priority was to get him back. We may not have had a certain choice in this matter, but he's not treated as any other prisoner in India or an under trial in India, is he?
See, what the courts abroad would like to look at are two things. For example, if you remember for Abu Salem, we actually agreed that we would not give a death sentence. As to whether that was legal in India or not is a different issue. The reason is a country which does not have a death sentence will not extradite a person to another country where the crimes he's going to be charged with could result in a death sentence. Same way, many of these countries have a tendency to try to equate jails as having the conditions that their jails in their country have. And in that regard, there's definitely a stigma which they are trying to cast by saying our jails are of a far inferior quality. Well, the fact
they might be, but the crime was committed in India.
Our government then, in its anxiety to get the extradition, does not want to run the risk of a self-righteous judge in England turning around and saying, oh my God, I want him to have an ensuite bathroom, I require him to have an air conditioner or something like that.
Right.
Because those are really personal things, and it's very possible that many of the judges in countries like England would have an impression, and fortunately wrongly so, that they still are in a country which is a far superior infrastructure, far superior people than the Indians are. And that is a very unfortunate thing which reflects in the way this particular argument is always put forward, and the sympathy with which it is listened to by the judges there. I'm very sorry, but it's really reflective of the attitude of those individual people and how they still view India. And that is a very unfortunate thing. And I really think at some stage the government should take them head on and say, look, these are our jails, these are the conditions, the prisoners are safe, they are fed. It is not as though they're treated inhumanly. But if you expect them to be treated as though they're in a five-star hotel, how many jails in England actually try to do that? But more than anything else, I think it's an attitudinal thing of countries and judges there who seem to still want to regard India as one of the colonies where the conditions are hopeless.
In fact, Mr. Sundaram, let me read out what exactly the judge had to say on this before I move on to another point. We have studied the video of barrack number 12. So they ordered the video of this place where he's going to be kept, the barrack where he was going to be kept. We have studied this video and have borne in mind the circumstances in which it has been provided, as well as the fact that there were no inmates at the material time. Barrack number 12 is a dedicated area for high-profile prisoners. The video certainly gives the impression of a spacious and clean cell with plenty of natural light and a well-appointed ensuite bathroom. This is where Nirav Modi is going to be kept, the man who swindled 11,000 crores from our country. Anyway, I think it is still a victory, and let's not take away from the larger point.
I think
that he's being brought back.
Provided you do that for every prisoner.
Right.
I object to doing it for him alone.
Right.
And do it for every prisoner. Very good. Give them good conditions in jail. Nobody's going to object to that. But don't single this man out and say you'll get extra special treatment.
All
that
right.
I object to.
Okay. Adil Singh Boparai, Vijay Mallya, Mehul Choksi, Lalit Modi, Nitin Sandesara and family, a case of an 81,000 crore fraud. These are people still at large. So it's important that India doesn't give up this fight. But do you believe that this, it sort of clearly continues to send out that signal that no matter how long it takes, and there are no immediate answers here, that's what we have learned. You won't get these people back instantly, that India will continue to fight to try and get these people back.
Vishnuji, it's too little too late. And this is all shadow boxing to mislead the public. All these swindlers, all these embezzlers, all these thieves had close relations, and their escape was facilitated from India by the Bharatiya Janata Party. So therefore, the Bharatiya Janata Party cannot mislead the public and cannot mislead and run away from the fact that taxpayers' money, public money, has been swindled. Let's take the case of Vijay Mallya. Vijay Mallya's appeal was dismissed by the UK Supreme Court. It's been over 2 years. Apparently, proceedings are being conducted in secrecy. The UK Home Office has not given the approval or the green note to extradite him back to India. I will not be surprised if Nirav Modi's fate is also the same. If the government of India is indeed sincere, then they should have ensured that these people are brought back, number one. Number two, please see how these people escape.
Sure, let's get a response to that.
They had inputs from the government.
So, Adil, let's get a response. Ranbir Singh Pathania, these criminals were hand in glove with the BJP. How would you respond to that? They've been allowed to escape, is the allegation.
Absolutely preposterous. The silence of the Congress towards the growing menace of economic offences, and now another pimple over an ulcer that they are trying to mislead the country. There was a group of forged tweets which were used and ultimately defied by none other than the original tweet holder. It was Aditi Munshi's tweets where some false information, some misleading information was led to try to connect these said offences with the Bharatiya Janata Party. But India as a country and as a nation, we are lucky that we are governed by a system, by an establishment, by a leader, that he has an itch and urge. He has the courage, commitment and conviction. He has the courage, conviction and commitment to go against all that and to box the compulsor. Sushi, this is not like that one fine evening.
No, but Ranbir, it is a fact that these people escaped. Is it not a fact that this entire family of Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksi, his associates, they escaped from India after PNB had sounded an alert saying that this amount of money has gone missing from our system through this fall?
Sir, my point remains, let us appreciate the lead and the cardinal fact that it was Pradhan Mantri Modi ji who himself took up the lead, and ultimately he acted as a, we could say, the propagator and the virtual emerger of the activism against all these economic offences. You see the G20 meetings at Osaka and the another meeting at Argentina.
Okay.
Then ultimately at a bankers conference, he again reiterated that come back, Mr. Economic Offenders. We will use diplomatic our relations. We will use the law, and we will use.
Okay, but that doesn't really answer the question, Ranbir. We know what he's been trying to do.
Sir, the result is here. The result is here. We are onto the move. We are onto the move.
All right.
Of getting back Mr. Nirav
Okay,
Modi.
Adil wants to reply to that. Adil, go ahead.
And one last, sir. We stand committed to deport each and every economic
that's great
offender.
news.
That's what I said. We stand committed.
Okay, Ranbir, you made your point. Let Adil go ahead. Go ahead, yes. Adil.
Please.
Vishnu, if wishes were horses, all of us would ride. The fact of the matter is, the proof of the pudding lies in the eating. Who has been brought back to Indian soil? That's the question. Let's focus on outcomes. If the BJP wants to constantly indulge in platitudes and sing paeans for the emperor, that's up to them. But the fact of the matter is, it's been over 2 years that Vijay Mallya's appeal was dismissed by the UK Supreme Court. Our Supreme Court asked the government of India, please give us a clear response. And the government of India said, we are unaware. The UK is telling us that there are some secret proceedings going on and we cannot set a timeline. This is what the UK government said, despite the entire legal hierarchy being exhausted. So I asked a simple question, and through your medium, I want to put this out to the public of this country on behalf of the Congress party, that which of these swindlers is actually being brought back. That's why this is nothing but political shadow boxing. These are individuals who enjoy the patronage of the Bharatiya Janata Party. They had close proximity with the highest echelons, Mehul Choksi. Let's not forget Mehul Choksi's relationship, his equation, his camaraderie with the emperor. So therefore, the BJP cannot mislead anybody with this smokescreen. Bring them back. Bring them back on Indian soil if you're indeed committed.
No, but well, they've been successful in one of them, and cases are being pursued for the others. On Mehul Choksi, it's been unsuccessful so far. They tried.
What about Vijay Mallya? Despite his appeal being dismissed by the apex court.
It's in a British court, though, isn't it?
No.
So it's out of the government's hand.
I don't think he's right on the facts.
Vishnu, there are two parts.
I don't think he's right on the facts. The facts are a bit different.
There are two
Let
parts.
me tell you, if I can just,
Mr. Sundaram, I'll come to you in 30 seconds. Adil, finish your point and then let's go back.
Vishnu, there are two parts to this controversy. The first part is, first you allow them to flee. And the second part is, then you use taxpayers' money to bring them back. And you haven't been successful.
All right, one second, Mr. Sundaram, you disagree with what he's saying?
You don't call this a success.
Ranveer, half a second. Mr. Sundaram has some specific points. Go ahead, sir.
Sir, one liner. Congress has a track record of propagating lies amongst the people through various platforms.
No, but let's get the facts on this. Arima Sundaram, you disagree with the facts of this.
I'll just clarify a fact, Vishnu. This fact is very important because it was just pointed out by the Congress spokesperson that, look, why has Mallya not come back when the proceedings have become final and it's closed? I think he may not be aware, because otherwise I'm sure he would have seen the answer in it. Mallya has applied for political asylum on political grounds. It has gone out of the purview of courts. The result is final so far as the English court is concerned. Now he has applied for political asylum on various grounds and allegations he's making. That is under consideration of the executive, not of the courts. The English government is considering that. And there's a procedure laid down for political asylum.
Right.
Now, in his case, being a politician himself earlier, he must have brought in some grounds, but that is a totally different kind of proceeding.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, I need to start.
That is final.
Sure. I need to wrap this up because I've got another debate topic this evening, but I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. At least this one criminal is likely coming back to India. The next big topic this evening, after Twitter mass layoffs announced at Facebook, 11,000 people will be losing their jobs. Many layoffs expected in India as Meta loses steam. Joining us now, two special guests, Manish Maheshwari, former CEO of Twitter India, and Manish Sabharwal, the chairperson and co-founder of Teamlease Services. Manish Maheshwari, to you first. First, Twitter, now Facebook. Is this a case or two cases of two huge international companies, getting ahead of themselves and projecting something that none of them could actually achieve?
See, I won't say it's about not being able to achieve. I think there are two things happening, right? One is a secular trend towards a recession, and I think companies are sort of tightening up their belts towards that and sort of making sure that they are at the right size. At the same time, the second thing is much more specific to company. In case of Twitter, it was acquisition by Elon and change in business strategy. In case of Meta, I think they have been hit by three things simultaneously. One is softness on their ad revenues, primarily because of the privacy policy of Apple, which went into effect last year. Second is they have, their user growth has slowed, primarily because they have hit the limit of, how many daily active users they can have. And thirdly, they have made an oversized commitment to metaverse. And I think that is something that investors are really wary about. I think their stock price has dropped by 75%. Just this year. I mean, they were close to a market cap of 1 trillion. And right now they sit at a market cap of $50 billion. So I think they have been hit by these three factors simultaneously. And I think that is why you see a huge layoff. And 11,000 employees in a tech company, it's a very large number.
And Manish, you expect a large number of people in India would also be expected by this. They are very large in India, is Meta.
Yeah, I think there would be implication on India as well. I think we already saw that, the head of Twitter of Meta India, Ajit, also moved on. And yes. I think there could also mean some kind of impact there as well.
You think he was impacted by this? Ajit Mohan, the head of Facebook of Meta in India? Lost that line with him. We'll try and come back. Manish Sabharwal, why don't you come in over here, co-founder of Teamlease? Do you think that the head of Facebook India moving on had something to do with what we are seeing now?
No, I don't think so. I think that decision was made before. So I think that, I mean, it's important to recognize that employment has shifted from being a lifetime contract to a taxi cab relationship. Employers and employees now don't treat employment the way that it used to be. So it's important to sort of recognize that, taking risks is not illegal. There was a risk which Meta took in expanding substantially, thinking that the COVID digital super cycle would be permanent. That hasn't worked out, and shareholders don't pay salaries, customers do, and if customers are on strike, there will have to be some adjustments.
These aren't some adjustments, though. These are huge adjustments. If you look at the India story, I mean, is it enough for Mark Zuckerberg to actually say, sorry, you're out of a job? In the case of India, between Twitter and Facebook, we don't really know. It could be well above 1,000 jobs which actually disappear. Where do these people go?
I mean, I'm not sure employment is what it used to be. I can make the point again. I think if you want a guarantee, go buy a toaster, right? I mean, guarantees are not what employment is anymore, and employees resign all the time. So it's a tragedy on all sides. The company has already suffered. The employees will suffer. But sometimes we have to recognize that the world is a much more different and much more difficult and much more volatile and much more uncertain place than it used to be. So either we can tell entrepreneurs not to take risks and only hire people whom they can guarantee lifetime employment, or entrepreneurs will take risks and, stupidity or mistakes are not illegal. So the fact that
accountability, I mean, Zuckerberg himself says, I want to take accountability for these decisions and for how we got here. I know this is tough for everyone, and I'm especially sorry to those impacted. And then boom, people lose their jobs and he remains the boss. Of course, he started Facebook, so it's his company. Doesn't there seem to be an injustice just to something like that?
I don't know. I mean, entrepreneurs, if you want to vilify entrepreneurship for offering lifetime employment, I don't think even governments offer lifetime employment anymore. So it is a risk. Risks don't work out. And, if we don't want risk taking, I mean, we love the upside of risk.
I understand risks, but I just find it unbelievable that 11,000 people would get canned in one go. I mean, I'll put it bluntly. I just find it unbelievable that a company as large as Facebook, as Meta, would actually do this. I mean, this is the gold standard of employment in that sector. And to see them having made mistakes, despite being, a company which has been financially so well off, to the extent where they are laying off 11,000 people, I think one needs to ponder. That's why I'm asking. Not questioning the spirit of entrepreneurship at all.
I think mistakes get made. I think over the last 5-10 years, the cost of money being close to zero led to an asset super cycle in private and public markets. That excessive money led to excessive valuations. It also led to agony and ecstasy in terms of corporate animal spirits. So sure. I think that their stock price is down 70%. There is a lot of pain for the board. There is a lot of pain for the executives. Yeah. So I think that we live in a much more volatile and uncertain world. So I think I'm intrigued by your use of the word unbelievable, because this is probably just the beginning of a global downturn. So
that's important.
Be impacted by media.
That's an important point. Manish Maheshwari, would you agree that we've been talking about Twitter and Meta in India? We've seen Byju's have layoffs. There have been other companies in this space which have also had layoffs. That given the state of the global economy and the downturn expected in the West, this could just be the beginning?
Yeah, this could be the beginning in the sense that, economies go through a cycle, right? So we are into a cycle where things are contracting, the cost of money is increasing, so people are becoming more choiceful about investment. And I think this is probably where we will see this kind of trend to continue for at least a few months, if not quarters, and then probably the pendulum will swing back again. So that's what I believe, that most investments will shrink, and also existing companies will face a revenue crunch. And as a result, they will have to realign their P&L and also their cost structure.
Manish Sabharwal, final question to you. What has Zuckerberg or Meta done wrong in the last little while since COVID for them to have to have taken these decisions? What have they invested in which has not worked out?
I think everybody assumed that the digitization of 2030 or 2040 was being brought forward to 2020. I mean, Zoom, which we are using, their stock price is down 80%. And so is Peloton. So there were certain companies which people thought would permanently benefit from COVID. And, you know, postmortems have a certainty that prescriptions don't. Every doctor will tell you that. I think every entrepreneur knows that if we're getting 60 to 70% of our bets right, then we're doing pretty well. This is in the 40% which didn't work out. So I think that they assumed that advertising revenue would hold up. They assumed that the migration from physical commerce to e-commerce would, which was almost 100% during COVID, would at least stay at 70, 80%. Those assumptions have not worked out. Now, you know, shareholders don't pay salaries, customers do. If customers and advertisers are evacuating the platform or holding back advertising dollars, then, you know, companies will have to adjust, and hopefully they will learn from this and come back much stronger and, you know, hire many more than these 13, 14,000 people. But I think if we want to live in a globalized, in a globalized world, then these kind of contagions are par for the course. There are good cycles and bad cycles. We're currently in a difficult cycle. Right. I think we can use it to find blame, or we can use it to recognize.
As I wrap up this program, I'm still tempted to more than sort of think a little bit about those who've lost their jobs. Brilliant professionals, highly educated, highly trained and successful in the assignments which they were given, out of a job because of decisions taken for various factors. And who knows where they're going to get these jobs. Does India, for example, even have room for so many highly trained professionals in certain areas? We leave it there. Thanks very much for your perspectives on this huge decision. Earlier by Twitter, now by Meta. Gigantic job cuts, 11,000 Meta employees sacked.